My daughter-in-law called me a useless old witch the moment I confronted her about the abortion. Her voice was cold, dripping with a fury that didn't match the situation at all. I wasn't judging her, just confused. She and my son had been trying for a baby for almost a year. He had cried in my kitchen more than once, wondering if something was wrong with him. So when I learned she'd ended a pregnancy without a word to him, my heart broke, for both of them. But the way she reacted, the way her eyes flashed with something between contempt and panic, it wasn't a reaction of a woman grieving or struggling. It was the reaction of a woman hiding something. As she brushed past me, shoulder slamming mine, I caught the faintest smell of a man's cologne. And in that moment, I realized the baby she aborted wasn't my son's. But what I discovered next was far worse. The afternoon light in Emily's kitchen had that golden quality that makes everything look deceptively peaceful. I stood by the island counter, my reflection wavering in the polished granite surface. My purse hung heavy on my shoulder. I hadn't set it down. Something in Emily's posture when she'd opened the door told me I wouldn't be staying long. She leaned against the sink with her arms crossed, one hip cocked, her expression already carved from ice. The same face she wore at family dinners when Derek's father was still alive and I'd tell stories from Derek's childhood. The face that said, "I'm tolerating you, but barely." I began, keeping my voice soft, non-threatening. "I ran into Brenda yesterday, from Dr. Morrison's office." Emily's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. If I hadn't been watching carefully, I would have missed it. And her tone was flat, bored, even. "She mentioned you'd been in for a procedure." I swallowed hard, choosing my words like I was defusing a bomb. "Honey, if you had a miscarriage or if something went wrong with a pregnancy, I wish you'd felt like you could tell me."
Tell us.
Derek's been so worried about. About what? Emily pushed off the sink, taking 2 aggressive steps toward me. About his precious legacy? About giving you grandbabies to parade around at church? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Mabel? She said my name like it tasted bitter. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been gossiping with nurses about my private medical information. Brenda didn't gossip. She was making conversation. She said she admired your strength for making a difficult choice. The words felt heavy on my tongue. "Emily, were you pregnant?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Emily stared at me with those sharp green eyes, the ones Derek said he'd fallen in love with at first sight. Right now they looked reptilian, cold-blooded. "Yes," she said finally. "I was pregnant. And yes, I terminated it. 8 weeks. Clean, simple, done." My heart cracked down the middle. Not from judgment. I've never believed it's my place to judge any woman's choice about her own body, but from the casual cruelty in her delivery. And from what it meant for my son. "But Derek's been," my voice caught. "You two have been trying. He's been to specialists. He changed his entire diet, started taking supplements, blamed himself when nothing happened. He cried on my couch last month thinking he was broken. That's his problem." 3 words, delivered without a shred of empathy. I gripped the edge of the counter. "How is this his problem? You're his wife. You told him you wanted a baby. He's torn himself apart trying to give you one, and you." "I changed my mind." She shrugged. Actually shrugged. "Women are allowed to change their minds, Mabel. Or is that too modern a concept for you?" "Of course you're allowed to change your mind. But Derek deserved to know. He deserved to be part of that conversation." Emily laughed then. A short, bitter bark of sound that made my skin crawl. "A conversation? With Derek?" She moved closer, invading my space. "Let me tell you something about your son, since you seem to think he's some kind of saint. Derek doesn't have conversations. He has feelings. Big, overwhelming, suffocating feelings that I'm expected to manage. If I told him I was pregnant, he would have been impossible. Crying, planning, probably calling you every 5 minutes for advice. And when I told him I wasn't ready, wasn't sure, didn't want it, do you know what he would have done?" I said nothing. My throat had closed. He would have tried to convince me, would have made it about him and his dreams and his family legacy. would have guilted me with those sad puppy eyes until I felt like a monster for even considering my own needs. Her voice rose with each sentence, sharp and cutting. So, I made the choice without him. My body, my choice, and I don't owe him, or you, any explanations. You don't owe me anything, I managed to say, my voice shaking now. But you owe your husband honesty. You owe him the respect of including him in decisions that affect both your lives. Respect. Emily's laugh was uglier this time. That's rich coming from a woman who's been undermining our marriage since day one. I have never. You've done nothing but hover and intrude and insert yourself where you're not wanted. She was shouting now, her face flushed. Every holiday you guilt Derek into spending with you. Every problem we have, he runs crying to mommy. Every decision I make, you find some way to question it. You're not a mother-in-law, Mabel. You're a parasite. The word hit me like a slap. I'm trying to understand, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. I'm trying to make sense of why you'd hide something like this from someone who loves you. You want to understand? Emily stepped even closer, so close I could see the tiny flecks of gold in her green eyes.
Fine.
Let me spell it out for you. You are a useless old witch who can't accept that your son has moved on. You're clinging to him because you have nothing else in your sad little life. No husband, no purpose, no identity beyond being Derek's mother. And you know what the worst part is? She paused, her lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. Derek's starting to see it too. He's starting to realize how pathetic it is that his mother needs him more than his wife does. So here's my advice, go home. Bake your casseroles, tend your garden, find a hobby that doesn't involve meddling in my marriage. Because if you think for 1 second that I'm going to let you poison my husband against me, you're more deluded than I thought. I stood there, frozen, as Emily turned and strode past me toward the hallway. Her shoulder slammed into mine as she went. Not accidentally, not a brush, but a deliberate, violent shove that nearly knocked me off balance. And then I smelled it.
Cologne.
Sharp and woody with an undertone of something expensive. Bergamot maybe, or sandalwood. It clung to her hair, her clothes, her skin. It wasn't Derek's cologne. My son wore something mild and understated, a drugstore brand that smelled like soap and cedar. This was designer. The kind of scent that cost $200 a bottle. The kind that lingered on sheets and shirt collars and skin even after showers. I turned slowly, watching Emily disappear down the hallway, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors my son had installed himself, board by board, dreaming of the home they'd build together. My mind raced, pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. The abortion made no sense if Derek was the father. Not with how desperately they'd been trying.
Not with how much he wanted a child.
But it made perfect sense if Derek wasn't the father. The rage, the panic in Emily's eyes, that wasn't guilt over ending a pregnancy. That was fear of exposure. Fear of being caught. My legs trembled. I grabbed my purse, moved toward the door on autopilot, my heart hammering against my ribs. On the entry table, half buried under a stack of unopened mail, something caught my eye. A receipt. Just the corner visible, but I could make out the name. Marcello's. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. I slipped the receipt into my purse and walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. In my car, I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. The receipt felt like it was burning through my purse. Marcello's. The expensive Italian place downtown where Derek had wanted to take Emily for their anniversary. But their anniversary wasn't until June. I pulled the receipt out with shaking hands. October 17th, 7:30 p.m. reservation. 2 dinners, wine, dessert. Total, $347. October 17th was a Thursday. Derek worked late every Thursday. Until at least 8:30, sometimes 9. I stared at that receipt until the numbers blurred, until my hands stopped shaking and something harder, colder, settled in my chest. Emily hadn't been at Marcello's with my son. She'd been there with someone else. Someone who wore expensive cologne and paid for expensive dinners while my Derek worked himself to exhaustion trying to build a life with a woman who was building a lie. The baby she'd aborted. It wasn't Derek's. I knew it with the same certainty I knew my own name. But sitting there in that driveway, the October sun setting behind Emily's perfect house with its perfect lawn and perfect facade, I realized something even worse. I looked up to find Helen Martinez sliding into the booth across from me. Helen and I had been friends since our sons played Little League together. Her boy, Tommy, had been Derek's best friend all through high school.
Helen.
I tried to smile, but it must have looked wrong because her expression immediately shifted to concern. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something in me broke. Maybe it was the kindness in her voice, or the fact that I'd been holding everything in for the past hour, or maybe I just needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. Whatever the reason, I started talking. I told her everything. The abortion, the confrontation, the cologne, the receipt. I watched her face carefully as I spoke, looking for judgment or disbelief, but all I saw was growing anger on my behalf. That absolute. Helen caught herself, glancing around the cafe. She lowered her voice. Mabel, you know what this sounds like, right? I know what it sounds like, but I can't accuse her without proof. I can't destroy Derek's marriage on a suspicion. His marriage is already destroyed if she's doing what you think she's doing. Helen reached across the table and gripped my hand. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. I keep thinking about Derek. About how he blamed himself for months. How he went to doctors, changed everything about his life, cried himself sick thinking he was the problem. My voice cracked. If she was pregnant with another man's baby this whole time, if she let him suffer like that, then she's a monster, Helen finished quietly. We sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, I could see normal people living normal lives. Walking dogs, pushing strollers, laughing. How many of them were hiding secrets like this? How many perfect-looking marriages were rotting from the inside? Tommy might be able to help, Helen said suddenly. What?
Tommy.
He works in IT now, does cybersecurity consulting. He's always going on about digital footprints and metadata and things I don't understand. If Emily's having an affair, there'll be evidence. Phone records, emails, social media messages, something. I can't ask Tommy to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Helen's grip on my hand tightened. Derek is like family to me, Mabel. I watched him grow up. I'm not going to sit back and watch him get destroyed by some cheating wife while his mother tears herself apart trying to protect him. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Tommy Martinez's apartment, watching him work at a computer setup that looked like something from a spy movie. 3 monitors, keyboards, cables everywhere. Okay, Mrs. B, Tommy said, using the nickname he'd called me since he was 10. I need you to understand something first. What I'm about to do is legally gray area. I'm not hacking anything, but I am going to search public records, social media, anything that's technically accessible to anyone who knows where to look. You good with that? I thought about Derek's face the last time he'd cried in my kitchen. About Emily's cold eyes and colder words. About that receipt and that cologne. I'm good with it. All right. Give me everything you have. Full names, addresses, phone numbers if you know them, email addresses, social media handles. I rattled off what I knew. Tommy's fingers flew across the keyboard, screens filling with information faster than I could process. Emily Chun, married to Derek Fisher, address matches what you gave me.
He scrolled through something.
Social media is pretty locked down, but let's see what we can see. Facebook friends, Instagram follows. He went quiet, leaning closer to one of the screens. What is it? Maybe nothing. But she's got a lot of tag photos from someone named Brandon Westfield. Like a lot. Going back about 8 months. My heart started pounding. Can you show me? Tommy clicked through several photos. Emily at what looked like a work event, Brandon's hand on her lower back. Emily at a restaurant, not Marcello's, somewhere else. Brandon across from her. Emily at someone's birthday party, leaning into Brandon's shoulder. The timestamps told a story.
July. August.
September. October. Who is he? I heard myself ask. More typing. Brandon Westfield, 34, works in real estate development. Pretty successful from the looks of it. Divorced 2 years ago, no kids. Lives in. Tommy pulled up an address. Riverside Tower. That's the expensive high-rise downtown. Can you find out if he was at Marcello's on October 17th? Tommy looked at me with something like respect. You're thinking like a detective, Mrs. B. But that's going to be harder. Restaurant reservations aren't exactly public record. What about credit cards? If he paid. Definitely can't access that. That's actual hacking and I could go to jail. He drummed his fingers on the desk. But social media check-ins are public if people don't lock them down. Let me look. More typing. Then Tommy whistled low.
Bingo.
Brandon checked in at Marcello's on October 17th at 7:45 p.m. Posted a photo of his wine glass with the caption, "Celebrating success with good company." He turned one of the monitors toward me. There was the photo. Expensive red wine, candlelight, and in the blurred background, just barely visible, a woman with blonde hair styled exactly like Emily wore hers. That could be anyone, I said, but my voice had no conviction. Could be. Tommy clicked through more photos. But here's the interesting part. Brandon's been to a lot of nice restaurants in the past few months. And Emily's been posting photos of meals she's enjoying alone while Derek works late. He pulled up side-by-side images. Different angles, but the same restaurant, the same night, visible in the timestamps. They're pretty careful. Never posting together, never tagging each other in anything romantic. But the pattern's there if you know what to look for. I stared at the screens, at the digital evidence of my daughter-in-law's betrayal, and felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Is there more? Probably. Give me a day or two to dig deeper. I can check property records, see if there's any financial connection. Look through more social media. Build a timeline. Tommy swiveled his chair to face me. Mrs. B, I'm really sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to find. I wanted the truth, no matter what it was. I stood up, my legs steadier now that I had something concrete. Thank you, Tommy. And please, don't tell anyone about this yet. Not even your mom. Not until I figure out how to tell Derek. You got it. He walked me to the door. Hey, Mrs. B. Derek's lucky to have you looking out for him. Not every guy has a mom who'd go this far to protect him. In my car, I sat with my hands on the wheel and let myself feel it all. The anger, the heartbreak, the sick vindication of being right mixed with the agony of wishing I'd been wrong. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Derek. Emily seems upset. Did something happen between you two? I could read the worry in those words. The fear of conflict between us. The guilt he always carried for putting me and Emily in each other's lives. Nothing to worry about, sweetie. Just a misunderstanding. Another lie. But what choice did I have? I couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not until I had everything. Not until I could give him the whole truth in a way he couldn't deny or explain away, or let Emily manipulate him out of believing. I started the car and drove toward home, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the road. Tomorrow I'd call Tommy and tell him to keep digging. Tomorrow I'd figure out my next move. But tonight, I'd sit with this knowledge and prepare myself for what came next. Because if Emily thought she could hide this, if she thought she could abuse my son and discard me and keep living her perfect lie, she was about to learn something important about mothers. We protect our children, no matter what it costs us. And I wasn't done protecting Derek yet. 3 days later, Tommy called me at 6 a.m. Mrs. B, I found something. You need to come over. I was there in 20 minutes, still in my pajamas under my coat, my hair barely brushed. Tommy looked like he hadn't slept. Energy drinks cluttered his desk, and all 3 monitors glowed with information. I went deep, he said, pulling up a chair for me. And Mabel, this is worse than we thought. My stomach dropped. Show me. He pulled up the first screen. Brandon Westfield. Real estate developer, like I said. But here's what I didn't tell you. He specializes in luxury commercial properties. His company's worth about $40 million. Okay, now look at this. Another screen. Financial documents I didn't fully understand. 6 months ago, Emily incorporated an LLC. Chun Consulting Group. The business address? Brandon Westfield's office building. The pieces were clicking together, but I didn't want to see the picture they were forming. There's more. Tommy pulled up bank records, public information from business filings. Emily's LLC received 2 payments in the last 4 months, each for $50,000. The source? Westfield Properties. $100,000, I whispered. For consulting services that, as far as I can tell, don't exist. Emily works in marketing for a healthcare company. She has no real estate experience. No consulting background that I can find. Tommy turned to face me. Mrs. B, I think he's paying her. Paying her for what? I don't know for sure, but usually when a wealthy man starts funneling money to a woman through a shell company. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I felt sick. What else? Hotel records. I have a buddy who works front desk at the Grandview Hotel. I asked him to check their system. Off the record, don't ask how. Brandon Westfield has had a room there every Thursday night for the last 6 months. Sometimes Fridays too. The room's always booked under his name and his credit card, but security footage, which my buddy definitely shouldn't have shown me, shows Emily meeting him there. Multiple times. He pulled up grainy security stills. Time-stamped photos of Emily entering the hotel, walking toward the elevators. Different outfits, different dates, but always the same woman. Thursday nights, I said hollowly. Derek's late nights at work. Yeah. Tommy's voice was gentle now. And Mrs. B, there's something else. Something I think you need to prepare yourself for. I looked at him, at this boy I'd watched grow up, who'd spent countless nights at my dinner table, who is now destroying my world with the truth. Emily's calendar. She links it to her Instagram sometimes for event planning. I was able to pull some dates. On August 23rd, she had an appointment at a women's health clinic. Private practice, high-end. Not Dr. Morrison's office, where she usually goes. August 23rd. 2 months before the abortion. That would have been around the time she got pregnant, I said.
Right.
And if she and Derek were trying, and she knew she was pregnant. Tommy pulled up another document. I found the clinic's information. They specialize in genetic testing, paternity testing. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the desk. She wanted to know who the father was, I heard myself say. And when she found out it wasn't Derek? Tommy didn't finish. I sat there, staring at all the evidence spread across 3 monitors. Bank transfers, hotel security footage, calendar appointments, check-ins at restaurants. A digital trail of betrayal so comprehensive, so calculated, that it stopped being about passion or mistakes and became something colder. This wasn't an affair. This was a plan. Tommy, if she's getting paid through this LLC, if she's been seeing him for 6 months. My mind raced. What is she doing? Is she planning to leave Derek for him? I don't think so. Tommy pulled up more photos. Look at Brandon's social media. Recent posts. I leaned closer. Photos of Brandon at charity events, business dinners, gallery openings. And in several photos, standing close to him, smiling for the camera, was a woman. Tall, elegant, dark-skinned. Who is she? Vanessa Westfield. His ex-wife. Except they're not exactly ex anymore. Look at the dates. The photos were recent. Within the last month. In one, Brandon had his arm around Vanessa's waist. In another, they were kissing at what looked like New Year's Eve party. They got back together, I said. About 6 weeks ago, from what I can tell. And Mrs. B. Tommy zoomed in on one photo. Vanessa's left hand. That's an engagement ring. I stared at the enormous diamond, at the happy couple, at the timeline that was becoming horrifyingly clear. Emily had been having an affair with a man who'd just gotten back together with his ex-wife. A man who'd been paying her $100,000. A man whose baby she'd been carrying and then aborted. She's blackmailing him, I said suddenly. That's what the money is. He got back together with his ex and Emily threatened to expose the affair. Tommy nodded slowly. That's what I think too. And if she was pregnant with his baby, that would have been leverage. When she lost that leverage or chose to end it, she needed something else. The LLC. The paper trail. She has proof of the affair buried in business documents. If she exposes him, his reputation's destroyed, maybe his reconciliation with his ex-wife too. And she gets paid to keep quiet. I stood up, pacing Tommy's small apartment. My mind was spinning, trying to process the depth of Emily's manipulation. She wasn't just cheating on Derek. She was running a scheme, using my son as cover while she extorted her wealthy lover. Does Derek know any of this? Tommy asked quietly.
No. God, no.
He has no idea. Are you going to tell him? The question hung in the air. I turned to look at Tommy, at all the evidence on his screens, proof of the lie Derek was living. I don't know how, I admitted. How do I tell my son that his wife has been cheating on him for months, that she got pregnant with another man's baby, that she's being paid off, that his entire marriage is a fraud? How do I break his heart like that? Mrs. B, his heart's already broken. He just doesn't know it yet. The truth of it hit me hard. Derek crying in my kitchen about fertility problems that didn't exist. Derek blaming himself for failing to give Emily something she'd never wanted from him. Derek working late every Thursday while his wife was at a hotel with another man.
My phone rang.
Derek's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but Tommy nodded at me, and I picked up.
Mom?
Where are you? I've been calling all morning. I'm at Tommy's. We were having coffee and catching up. Another lie. I was drowning in them.
Oh, good.
That's good. He sounded relieved. Listen, I wanted to ask you something. Emily's been acting weird since you stopped by. She won't tell me what happened, but she's been really distant. Did you two fight? I closed my eyes. Derek, sweetheart, can we talk? In person. That's actually why I'm calling. Can you meet me for lunch? That place we used to go, Riverside Cafe? I have a half day today. My heart clenched. Riverside Cafe, where we used to have our Saturday breakfasts. Where he used to tell me his dreams. Of course. What time? Noon. I'll be there. I hung up and looked at Tommy. I'm going to tell him.
Today.
I have to. Do you want me to come? I can bring the evidence, explain how I found everything.
No.
I picked up my purse. This needs to be just me and Derek. But Tommy, can you compile everything? Print it out, put it on a drive, whatever. I need to be able to show him proof. Physical proof he can't deny. I'll have it ready in an hour. I drove home in a daze. Showered. Changed into real clothes. Sat at my kitchen table and stared at the clock as it crawled toward noon. At 11:30, Tommy texted me. Everything's ready. Dropbox link sent to your email. Also printed hard copies. I'm here if you need me. At 11:45, I got in my car. At 11:55, I sat in the parking lot of Riverside Cafe and watched Derek through the window. He was already there, sitting in our old booth, looking at his phone. He looked so much like his father in that moment. The same way Michael used to sit when he was worried about something, shoulders slightly hunched, brow furrowed. My baby boy. My son, who I'd raised alone after Michael died. Who I'd protected and loved and sacrificed for. Who was about to have his world shattered. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror.
Took a deep breath.
And then I saw Emily's car pull into the parking lot. She parked 3 spaces away from me, didn't notice me sitting there. She got out, checked her phone, and walked toward the cafe entrance. My blood ran cold. She was wearing a fitted black dress, heels, full makeup. Not the casual clothes you'd wear to crash your husband's lunch with his mother. She looked like she was going to war. Through the window, I watched her approach Derek's booth. Watched his surprised face turn into a smile. Watched her lean down and kiss him, then slide into the booth across from him. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Hey Mom, Emily surprised me and joined us for lunch.
See you soon.
My hands shook as I read the message. She knew. Somehow, Emily knew I was planning to tell Derek everything. And she'd gotten there first. I sat frozen in my car, watching through the window as Emily spoke to Derek. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her body language. The way she leaned forward, intimate and concerned. The way she reached across the table to hold his hand. The way Derek's expression shifted from confusion to something that looked like guilt. She was spinning a story. I knew it in my bones. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Derek. Mom, where are you? We need to talk when you get here. We need to talk. Not I need to talk.
We.
Emily had already poisoned the well. I got out of the car. My legs felt like water, but I walked toward that cafe anyway. Pushed open the door. The little bell chimed, cheerful and oblivious. Derek looked up. His face was pale, strained. Emily turned to look at me, and there it was, that cold smile. The one that said she'd already won. Mom. Derek stood up, his movements stiff. Sit down. Please. I slid into the booth next to him. Emily sat across from us, her hands folded on the table like a lawyer about to deliver a verdict. Derek, I started, but he held up his hand. Let me talk first. Please. His voice cracked slightly. Emily told me what happened the other day. About your visit. Derek, whatever she told you. She said you confronted her about a medical procedure. That you were upset. She didn't tell me about it. He looked at me with those soft brown eyes, so much like his father's. Mom, I knew. I knew about the abortion. The world tilted. What? Emily and I talked about it when it happened. We decided together that it wasn't the right time. We'd been trying, yes, but we also realized we were doing it for the wrong reasons. Pressure from family, pressure from society. We needed to make sure we wanted a baby for ourselves, not for everyone else. I stared at him, then at Emily. She met my gaze steadily, that small smile never wavering.
It was a perfect lie.
Seamless. Impossible to disprove, without showing my hand. Emily said you were very upset with her. That you called her selfish. That you accused her of ruining your chance at grandchildren. Derek's voice was gentle but firm. Mom, I love you. But this is our marriage. Our choice. And I need you to respect that. Derek, that's not what happened. I also didn't tell you because I knew you'd react this way, he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. I knew you'd be hurt and confused. But Mom, Emily and I are partners. We make these decisions together. And I need you to trust that I know what's best for my own life.
Every word was a knife.
Not because they were cruel, but because they were sincere. Derek believed what he was saying. Emily had woven her lies so carefully into truth that he couldn't see the manipulation. Is there anything else you wanted to tell me? Derek asked, his tone almost challenging. Emily said you seemed like you had more to say. This was it. The moment. I could pull out my phone, show him the evidence Tommy had compiled. The hotel photos, the bank transfers, the timeline of betrayal. I could tear down Emily's lies right here, right now. But looking at my son's face, at the way he was sitting slightly angled toward Emily, protective of her even now, I saw something that stopped me cold. He wasn't ready to hear it. If I showed him the truth now, with Emily sitting right there ready to spin and deflect and manipulate, I would be the villain. The jealous mother who couldn't let go. The woman who'd hired people to spy on his wife, who'd invaded their privacy, who'd constructed elaborate conspiracy theories. Emily knew it too. That's why she'd come. She was daring me to make my move knowing Derek would choose her. No, I heard myself say. There's nothing else. Emily's smile widened just a fraction. I'm sorry if I overstepped, I continued, forcing the words out. You're right. It's your marriage, your decision. I should have respected that. Derek's shoulders relaxed. He reached over and squeezed my hand. Thanks, Mom. I know this is hard for you. But Emily and I are okay. Better than okay. We're actually thinking about renewing our vows next year. Fresh start, you know? Renewing their vows. While she blackmailed her lover and planned her exit strategy. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I smiled. It felt like my face was cracking. Emily stood up. I should get going. I have a meeting at 2. She leaned down and kissed Derek's cheek. I'll see you at home tonight, honey. Then she turned to me. Mabel, thank you for understanding. I know we've had our differences, but I hope we can move forward from here. She extended her hand across the table. I looked at it, at her manicured nails and expensive rings and the complete absence of shame in her eyes. I shook her hand. Her grip was firm, triumphant. And as she pulled away, she leaned in close, speaking so softly that only I could hear. Stay away from my marriage, you crazy old bitch. Or I'll make sure Derek never speaks to you again. Then she straightened up, gave Derek another brilliant smile, and walked out of the cafe. Derek and I sat in silence for a moment. He played with his coffee cup, not meeting my eyes. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, he said finally. About the abortion. I knew it would hurt you. You don't have to apologize. My voice sounded hollow. I just want you to be happy. I am happy. But he didn't sound happy. He sounded tired. Emily's been under a lot of stress with work. She's been taking on extra consulting projects, working late. Sometimes I worry she's burning herself out. Consulting projects. The lie was so smooth she'd even sold it to Derek. Maybe you two should take a vacation, I suggested. Get away for a while. Reconnect.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he finally looked at me.
Mom, are you okay? You seem, I don't know, different. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him awake. I wanted to tell him everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every piece of evidence that proved his wife was destroying him. Instead, I smiled.
I'm fine, sweetheart.
Just getting older. You know how it is. We talked for another 20 minutes about nothing. His work, my garden, the weather. Surface conversation that felt like drowning. When we finally left, Derek hugged me in the parking lot. I love you, Mom. Even when we disagree. I love you too. More than anything. I watched him drive away, then sat in my car and called Tommy. She beat me to it, I said when he answered. She knew I was going to tell him. What are you going to do? I thought about Emily's whispered threat. About Derek's face when he defended her. About the choice in front of me. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, I said slowly. I'm going to back off. Stop calling as much. Give them space. Mrs. B. And while I'm doing that, you're going to keep digging. Find everything. Every transaction. Every meeting. Every lie. Build a case so airtight that when it finally falls apart, and it will fall apart, Tommy, because lies like this always do, Derek will have someone to turn to who already knows the truth. You're playing the long game. I'm being his mother. I started the car. Emily thinks she won today. She thinks she scared me off. But she made a mistake. What's that? She threatened me. Which means she's scared. And scared people make mistakes. I pulled out of the parking lot. I'm going to wait for her to make the next one. And when she does, I'll be ready. 3 months later, Emily's world began to unravel. It started with Brandon's engagement announcement in the local business journal. Then his ex-wife turned fiancé posting photos of their wedding planning. Emily's blackmail leverage was disappearing. The LLC payment stopped. Emily started working later, her stress showing in ways even Derek noticed. She became erratic, angry, desperate. And one Thursday night, Derek came home early from work. He found her on the phone in their bedroom, door closed, voice raised. He heard her say Brandon's name. Heard her say, "You owe me." Heard her say, "I can destroy you." He called me at midnight. "Mom," he said, his voice broken, "I think I need your help." I drove to his house, sat with him while he cried. And when he was ready, I showed him everything. Every photo, every bank statement, every timeline, every truth I'd been holding. He broke. Completely. And I held him together the way I had when his father died, when he was still a boy who thought his mother could fix anything. I couldn't fix this. But I could be there for him. Emily left 3 days later. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks after that. She didn't fight it. Didn't try to save the marriage. She just disappeared back into whatever shadows she'd crawled out of. Derek moved back home with me for a while.
Some nights he cried. Some nights he raged.
Some nights he just sat silently, staring at nothing. But slowly, so slowly, he healed. And 6 months later, when he finally smiled at something genuinely funny, When he laughed without the weight of betrayal in his voice, I knew he'd be okay. Because that's what mothers do. We protect our children from monsters, even when the monsters look like love. Especially then.
The end.
Thank you for listening to my story. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been in such situation before? Caught between your child's marriage while trying not to be the villain? Share your story with us. If you would do anything for your kids, like this video and subscribe. See you in the next video.